This ain't no joke, this ain't no game. This that CSZ game. They said pull up, so I came. You better put some respect on their name. Yeah, 55 was goody. Kill the vibe, how could he? Big card on the hoodie. Let me break it down for you fully. This ain't your average broadcast. This ain't just no podcast. The mother shows spread fake news. We just call them broadcasts. West, Joey, Sam, Sean, Dalton, and you know that boy Higgy. He said he don't want no small fries. Tell them they better make them biggie. Yeah, you already know what we be on. We got the crown, we hold the throne. We throw them L's and you take them home. When they ring the bells, you know that it's home. The bar is set, we setting the tone. If we set it, then set it in stone. Now sit in the seat and set up your phone. You in the Cardinal Sports Zone. Set it.
Welcome back, everybody, to the latest edition of the Cardinal Sports Zone podcast. I'm your host, Jeremy Wallman. We're trying something new. First off, it's just me in the studio this week. None of the sidekicks, none of the co-hosts, none of the clowns are in the building. It's just me, one-on-one, and we'll get to the guests in a second. But last week, I started a new column where I got in touch with one of the Rival Bases writers, podcasters, somebody in the media, and just had a conversation with them, and I really liked it. Not sure why I didn't do it before, so I was going to hit up my guy FSI Doc and say, hey man, do you know anybody that would be good for a Q&A? And he was like, you should really do a podcast. So I'm like, oh, I got the equipment. That'd be really nice and easy. I love to talk. Let's do it. So coming to you live from the Fitness Market Studio. Still got to pay the bills. This is the Cardinal Sports Zone podcast, and this is your first edition of GameDay Prep. I'm your host, Jeremy Wallman. As you all know, this week the Cardinals are traveling to Tallahassee to take on FSU at 3:30 on ESPN2. As I stated before, I reached out to my guy, FSU iDoc, to see if he knew of anybody who may want to join me, and he told me, man, there's only one choice. So without further ado, here's the manager of the Roll Up Network, the host of the Peak to Pit, Double Fries No Slaw, and Bourbon Budget podcast, easy for me to say, Mr. TJ Pittinger. TJ, thanks for coming on tonight, man. We really appreciate you.
My pleasure. I appreciate you shouting all those things out that I do, all those projects that I do on the side that my wife hates. So no, I'm just playing, but I appreciate it. Yeah, do a lot of stuff, in media, mostly FSU related. So that's the Double Fries No Slaw podcast.
I love the intro music to that. The intro music to that was just like, it took me back to my childhood. I was like, this is gangster.
Yeah, my buddy Tarif Knockout is a local rapper there in Tallahassee. We're big in the local community, in the local scene. Double Fries No Slaw is an ode to Guthrie's. There's a big chicken tender place there. If any of your listeners are traveling down to Tallahassee, you got to go get a gut box. If you tell them Double Fries No Slaw sent you, you get a free drink. But, my guy's a local rapper down there in Tallahassee, put together that beat. So Tarif Knockout is his name. So, yeah, I love that. I love that intro music too, man. It's different.
Yeah, and I will tell you this. We have – and we'll get into this later on in the conversation, but we call the Panama City, Destin, Tallahassee area, we call that Louisville South because we like to go down there as often as possible. I'm actually heading down there for fall break next week. So, and we do, we go, the Busy Bee has, that we go to has a Guthrie's in it. So very familiar with that. And
oh, it's epic.
I love Busy Bee. I used to, because Panama City Beach just built their first Busy Bee about maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago. So that was my first introduction to it. But we were coming home from Orlando, and we did stop at Tallahassee. And the one we stopped at, the Busy Bee we stopped at, had one in it. And I'm like, man, this is great. So shout out to all none of them are our sponsors. Shout out to all the places, Tallahassee, Panama City Beach, Destin, the Panhandle. We love that area. And we couldn't say enough about it. I feel like, I'm glad that I finally met somebody that has as many shows, just as much, just as busy as I am. I thought foolishly thought I was one of the only people, but then I started listening and reading what all you did, and I'm like, we're probably kindred spirits. Now, just real quick before we get into the Louisville FSU stuff, what I thought was interesting was the Roll Up Network. Now, explain to everybody kind of what that is, because I thought that was very, very unique.
Yeah, so it used to be, it started out as the Big Three Roll Up Network, went through a little bit of a rebranding, but not much changed other than the name. and some business stuff on the back end. But it was the Big Three roll up. Right now, it's just the roll up. So the Big Three in the state of Florida certainly don't look like the Big Three right now. Maybe we should rename it to the Little Three roll up. But Florida, Florida State, Miami, obviously in the 80s and 90s, that was just the absolute, you didn't win a title without going through one of those teams. And then, even in the 2000s, Miami won one, Florida State won one in 2013, and Florida won a couple. So Big Three, it was three buddies that just talk sports. One was a Florida fan, one was a Florida State fan, one was a Miami fan. And still kind of rolling, some different hosts, some different things going on. No pun intended, it's still rolling, but different things going on with it now, but still same concept, a Florida State, Miami show, where they give each other enough crap, but it's not just so much yelling over each other that it, becomes unbearable. For those not, maybe as familiar with the Big Three in Florida, it'd be like a Duke Carolina podcast or a Michigan State, Ohio State podcast, something like that. So it's a cool dynamic for sure. I don't know that it would work anywhere else. I really don't know that you could do something like this outside of the Big Three. I mean, you could, sir. I'm not saying that you couldn't, but I've just never seen it done, elsewhere. I've never seen a Detroit Lions, Green Bay Packers, Chicago Bears podcast. So, anyway, I think that the three schools down here are so kind of joined together, and the rivalries are so strong between all three, and they're all recruiting the same kids, and they all have kind of similar histories, and so it works well. And so anyway, I started out producing that podcast, just doing all the technical stuff, and then I kind of ran into doing all the business stuff for them on the back end and all that. So that's the deal with them.
Absolutely. And I know, even though I'm kind of insulted you didn't mention Louisville and Kentucky as one of the major rivalries around, I will say this absolutely would not work here. We don't like them. They don't like us. Even our friends who are Kentucky fans, we see them less often than we see our Louisville fan friends on purpose, because we don't want to hear about how they're going to go 40-0 every year in basketball and how their football team's just on the edge of being a great team the next year. So trust me, would not work here. I can't speak for the other places. Absolutely would not work. But I enjoyed. I listened to a couple of episodes. I really enjoyed it. I don't know how well known this is down in the Panhandle or in the state of Florida, actually. But growing up, and I talk about this a little bit later. Maybe I should just wait. I'll tease it a little bit. Florida State and Miami were huge here in the city of Louisville in the 80s and 90s, and probably had a lot to do with because they were the best of the best. I mean, the Louisville fans all identify with Florida State. The Kentucky, almost said the bad word there. The Blue fans supported Miami, and it was kind of like it was a thing because our teams both at that time, their team still is crap, but overall our teams were just, they weren't on the map yet, and I'm not sure there still is, but we've kind of blipped on the map here and there. But again, I don't want to get too much into that because I'm going to talk to you about that here in a little bit. But before we get into the meat of this, let me explain how we're going to do this. We got 15 questions. We'll get in and out, get you back to taking care of business since you do have 117 jobs. I don't want to take too much of your time, but we'll get you in and out, and let's get to it. Question number 1. We know coming into this game that it will be a hard-fought battle. I have never in my lifetime, I can remember an 0-3 FSU team, and I looked it up, and it was actually, I was 1 year old the last time there was an 0-3 FSU team. And we are traveling to Tallahassee to play this game, which is why I'm still not sure how this one's going to pan out. What we did see at the beginning of the year, the FSU was able to hang with Notre Dame. Is this team, and I don't want you to insult the team. I'm going to inadvertently do that enough for the both of us. So is this team, are they as bad as they have looked, or are they just struggling to find themselves with all the changes at quarterback?
Man, how long you got? So I don't know. I think they are, I don't mean this in an insulting way, but I think they are severely lacking at, they're an improved team from an overall perspective and an overall talent perspective, but they're lacking in the way of difference makers, right? They're lacking in the way of I don't know if you follow, if your listeners or your readers or anybody follows David Hale, does a lot of work with the ACC
Yep.
and works for ESPN. He ranked Florida State's wide receivers 14 out of 14 in the conference. If you looked at some of the info that came out this week through the press conference and stuff like that, I mean, Wake went to basically a man-to-man and manned up against Florida State, and Florida State's receivers couldn't beat Wake Forest man-to-man. That's just really what it came down to. And so Florida State does not have – they've got guys that would all be good number threes somewhere, right? Like basically everyone, would be a good number three, right?
Gotcha.
But can't be the number one. So they can't win one-on-one battles on the outside, and they can't block on the inside due to injuries, and the offensive line just hasn't come together. They've done a better job this year. They've improved, but if you can't win battles on the outside and you can't block on the inside, then it really does leave you in kind of a rough spot. And then, like you mentioned, the quarterback battle. So offensively, they're struggling right now based on all that. They've got to figure out a way to, it's tough to scheme guys open, when you don't have guys that can make a difference. And, we never thought we'd get to a place where Florida State didn't have the talent to beat Wake. But that's where they are. Now, from an overall team perspective, I mean, there are some things on the defense that's getting better. The defensive line is really good. There are some good pieces. The running backs have been good. But there are some good pieces. They're an improved team, but they're lacking in the difference makers. And that's been the biggest issue so far. You mentioned the Notre Dame game. They obviously did look really, really good against Notre Dame at certain times. You like their fight. You like the spark that they provided. But they've not been able to come out and replicate that again. So it's there, but can it be done again? So it's tough.
Yeah, and the reason why I wondered a little bit, because I've never looked at a Florida State team and been like, oh, we're going to win this game. And I don't feel that way this time either necessarily, but just looking at just from an overall standpoint, it's just like how could this team be struggling with Wake? I watched the Jacksonville State heartbreaker. That was I always cheer for you all when we're not playing. That's just the way it is. But with the Notre Dame game, so one thing you'll learn is sometimes I start talking and forget what I was going to, but I always get back to it. With the Notre Dame game, I thought, okay, FSU is really good. They're hanging with Notre Dame, but Notre Dame has looked less than stellar against Purdue and Toledo the following week. So it kind of made me feel like, well, was FSU that good, or is Notre Dame just mediocre? And that's crazy to hear me say that out loud, because those are two programs for FSU more so than Notre Dame that since I've been alive have been traditional powerhouses. So
Sure.
It's just really hard to figure out this FSU team, which is why by the end of the show, I may be willing to make a prediction, but I don't have it just yet. Question number 2, I'm going to be honest with you. FSU was the team that I was most excited about playing yearly when we entered the ACC, even though we had not had much luck against them. It was awesome, as I stated earlier. FSU was the team that a lot of us liked when we were growing up as the second team. They even asked our high school team my senior year. They said, y'all are going to be a top 5 team this year. What uniforms do you want? And we said, we want to look like Florida State. We had the gold helmets. We had the exact same uniforms. It was amazing. But Louisville was a non-factor back then. We were still a cupcake that people paid to come in and beat the pants off of them. When we got in this league, I was not sure we were going to be able to hang with Florida State. But all in all, it's been fairly even, I believe. Do you think Louisville's been a solid addition to the ACC so far?
Yeah, I think so. I think they've been the best addition yet. Certainly better than Pittsburgh or Syracuse has been. And so, yeah, I think so. I think, Louisville, in my mind, the Lamar Jackson year is kind of like your anomaly, right? Like it's hard to base things on just like one year.
Sure.
But, overall, even in 2014, you guys competed with us. That game was fantastic. We had the big comeback. 2015, I feel like that game was close for like a half, and then we kind of pulled away. 2016 was the Lamar year. 2017, you guys won by a field goal, if I remember correctly. Yep. 2018 and 19, we lost we won both of those years, but we really should have lost. Petrino blew that 18 game, and then last year you guys beat the pants off us. But so like you've caught Florida State at a good time. Well, I mean, you guys have had really good games with, I mean, Lamar's year against Clemson was great. You guys have shown that you guys are always there and a team that nobody can take lightly. One of the best road environments that exists in the ACC. Obviously, Clemson and Florida State are going to be at the top of that list, a lot of times. But one of the best road places to go into. I think about that game back in, the Lamar year, the 2016 year. That place was absolutely just shaking. And so tough place to go, weird place to go on Thursday night. But yeah, when you think about additions to the ACC, I mean, I think you guys have been at the middle to above average, most of the time. I mean, you've had your rough years. I mean, 18, 19, not great, right? But I think that you guys have been a good addition to the ACC, at least much better than I'd say Pitt or Q's or anybody else has been.
Well, I appreciate that, TJ. That was very nice of you to say. The game that was here where we went up big, and we had the NCAA leader in interceptions that picked off Jameis a couple times that game. We had y'all had Dalvin Cook. We had Devontae Parker, who was coming fresh off of an injury. I can't for the life of me remember, and it's somebody that I know, so they're going to really hate me when this comes out. I don't remember who the quarterback was for us that game. Maybe Will Gardner? I'm not sure. I believe so. But even that game, y'all coming back to win that game, that environment in the first half was one of the craziest environments that we've seen. And I agree. I think we've been in I would say, and that's not me being a homer, I would say we've been an average to above average. And I'm not sure if everybody out there realizes this out in Tallahassee anyway, but we were the first mid-major team when we won all the games that I'm going to reference, we were in a mid-major conference, but we were the first team to defeat Alabama, Miami, Florida, and FSU in anything. I'm not even sure that's not true as far as the Power Five back then either. I mean, I can't confirm that. I do know a huge deal was made about it. That's how average our success was in the 90s to 90 to 2000. It was every time we accomplished something, that's all you heard about, and rightfully so. But yeah, so I'm really hoping that we can take that next step. I know Florida State's not going to be down forever. I know Clemson's not going to be up forever. Trust me, I would much rather it be you all that were having the success that Clemson was having and them playing the way that y'all had. But alas, that's not been the case.
We wish it too.
Absolutely. You all have had a bunch of change this season. I don't want to say issues, that might be the wrong word, but you've had some struggles at quarterback. We are the opposite. We've got only one quarterback, and that's pretty much it. How are you a better team with Mackenzie Milton in? And then also, how are you a better team when former Cardinal quarterback Jordan Travis is in?
Well, we're a better team with – I think we're a better team with – I don't know. Can I just say we're not?
Okay.
We're better with both of them.
Fair.
No, I'm just kidding. We're a better team with Milton if and when he is getting time in the pocket. When he has time in the pocket, he's decisive. He knows where to make throws, and he does so. If he's not getting time, there's really just not a lot he can do. His receivers, again, are not able to win one-on-one battles. Makes it very difficult on him. But if and when he has time in the pocket, that's when we're a better team with him. We're a better team with Travis when he's healthy, and that's been the biggest issue with him. Last year, this year, he's gotten dinged up a little bit. When he's healthy, he runs the ball really, really well. Florida State was first in the conference last year. We won 3 games. Let me say that again. We were first in the conference last year with yards before contact from our rushers. If you take Travis's runs out, we were second behind Clemson, right? So obviously Travis puts you up a bunch because when he runs the option, he gets a lot of yards before contact. But if you just take him out, we're still second and won 3 games. So we do a good job running the ball. But you only do that when Travis is healthy. So those are kind of the 2 situations where one makes the other, that's where we can be better with each guy. The problem is neither one of those things have happened for very long stretches this year. Nobody's blocked for Milton, and Travis hasn't been healthy. So in a perfect world, those would be the situations where, each guy makes the team better.
Absolutely. One thing I will say is that Jordan's always kind of had an injury bug. I remember him getting injured here at Louisville, and that's ultimately was one of the things that led to him leaving Louisville. Also, real quick, I forgot to ask you this. Can you please send us Chuba Purdy back? We'd appreciate it if y'all would let us have him back because we need a backup, a quality backup, somebody that can. And that's not a knock against our backups. We got one backup that's in. He's not 100%, so he's not got to play to his full potential this year. And then because Jordan left, because Puma Pass left, because at the beginning of the season we had Ed McCaffrey's little brother here. He bounced on us. So it's not – a lot of people like to put that blame on Coach for not having a quality backup quarterback. But he could have never foreseen all the defections and all the flips. Chuba. I mean, he flipped on us on signing day. I knew I was forgetting somebody. Yeah. So – please send it back. That's all I'm going to say about that. But speaking of Chuba and Jordan, I'm a full believer that you all owe us something for giving you those guys. I can send you my address, and maybe we can work something out. What do you like about Chuba's game? You've already told me. The question was, what do you like about Chuba and Jordan's game? You've already told me what you like about Jordan's game. Do you have any nice things to say about Chuba?
And Chuba just needs to kind of, a lot of people thought he was kind of going to be the guy last year once Travis did get banged up and hurt a little bit. And he did start a game. I think it was I don't remember what game it was. Maybe it was the Wake Forest game. It was the NC State game. I'm not sure. But I think he played he didn't play very much. He got hurt and then was out. I think Chuba just needs the time with the ones. I think most people, most of the time with the ones went to Milton and Travis last year. Or I'm sorry, this spring. And so hasn't been a ton kind of going on with Chuba. I don't know that he's ready yet. A lot of people are clamoring for him. A lot of fans are saying, he needs to kind of just get the shot. Basically, this season's a wash anyway. Just go ahead and get him some reps, some live ball reps. I don't know the coaching staff is ready to just cash in on the season just yet. I think they'd still like to try and get to a few wins. Not that Chuba couldn't get us there, but obviously you'd be more confident in Milton or Travis. But yeah, I like Chuba. He's a big kid. I don't know enough about him to say that here's what he does well, here's what he doesn't do well. I do trust the coaches and I trust the guys that are out there at practice and stuff like that. And I don't think he's ready just yet, but it wouldn't shock me if he got some burn as we get a little bit later in the season.
Well, he did play. I do remember he played here last year, and I believe he threw a pick six. So he was able to throw a touchdown for Louisville, and we appreciated that. But yeah,
that's your parting gift.
Yeah, parting gift. But no, like I said, there's always been a connection, and I know it's silly because y'all probably don't think twice about us, and we're like, man, those guys are sentimental to us. One reason that I do love this rivalry, and it's crazy to think, hey, we get to have a rivalry with Florida State, is the history. From Elvis Dumerville, the battle with Elvis Dumerville versus Chris Winkie, which you all won, to the rain game here at Cardinal Stadium that we ended up, I think y'all were ranked second, and we ended up upset. I know we upset y'all that game. And even forward to probably the biggest game in Louisville football history, the Ali GameDay Heisman Maker game. There are a lot of memorable moments for both sides. So I want to ask you this. What is your favorite Louisville Florida State football moment?
Yeah, it's probably got to be that 2014 game, that big comeback. That was a ton of fun. I was at a party with the Tampa Bay Seminole Club here in Tampa for that. We rented out like a movie co, and man, that was to be so down, and then Florida State basically did that every week that year until they got to Oregon and just couldn't do it anymore. But it was one of the first big comebacks. I think that was before the Miami game. I think that was before some of the other comebacks. And so, yeah, that one was so much fun to see Jameis play really, really poorly first half and then kind of come out and say, yeah, we're not going to lose this game. That has to be it.
Yeah, I'll tell you, if I had to pick a game that was my favorite loss that I've ever been at Cardinal Stadium for. I'd have to pick that one because we were sitting right next to the Florida State section all the way there at the end. And I'm a very humble cheerer. We scored a touchdown. I'm good. We got to halftime. All of their fans, or all of y'all's fans, were like, bet y'all got us beat, don't you? And very calmly, I was like, no, there's the whole other half left. We've seen this before. There's a very good possibility. Now, I didn't know that y'all were going to come back and win the game, but I did tell them, I said, I'm not going to cheer yet because I know y'all are going to get back in this game in the second half because that's what Florida State football does. And like I said, all the Holloman was there. Dalvin Cook was there. Jameis Winston was there. It was just like it was a Eli Rogers, former receiver for the Steelers. He was there. It's just like, gosh, James Sample. I mean, the list goes on. I could just keep naming on both sides former players, but mostly Louisville ones, if I'm being honest. But it's just like that game is truly the highest of highs and lowest of lows, and unfortunately that one didn't work out for us like the one did Friday night, which I'm sure those people thought that was the best game that they'd ever been to at Cardinal Stadium when, on back-to-back passes, we went from the highest of highs, the lowest of lows, back to the highest of highs again. So it's very cool. That's also my favorite opposing Louisville-Florida State moment. Really quick before we get to the second half of the questions, I want to give a quick shout-out to our fine sponsors here at the Cardinal Sports Zone podcast: Fitness Market, Four Pegs Beer Lounge, Derby City Lawn and Landscaping, Shack in the Back Barbecue, and All-American Pool and Supply Company. All right, question number 6. And I know you're going to dig this question because I know just from listening to some of the shows that you have an interest in this. We are famous as a city and state for makes quality bourbon. I'm sure you've talked about this on the Bourbon Budget podcast, but what is your favorite bourbon?
Oh my gosh, this is the hardest question. This is harder than any other. It's harder than any other question you'll ask me. Man, it really changes. It really, it's like you develop a taste for something and then you try something new. I am a big taster and trier, and I like to try new things, and I like to open new bottles with different people, and I like to explore around, and I don't typically pour a glass of bourbon and then pour another one of that, and then pour another one of that, and pour another one. Like I usually say, okay, I had a taste of this, now I'm having something. So it's hard to answer that question. I really, really, really like, this is a hard to find. I'll give you one hard to find and then one easy to find.
Sure.
I love Michter's Toasted Barrel anything. So they have a Toasted Barrel finish rye that's barrel strength. The Toasted Barrel bourbon just came out this month. It's coming out here in September. It's really good. So I like anything with that toasted finish. Most, for your listeners that are in Louisville, probably already know this, but maybe for my people that tune in and listen, most barrels are charred, which is a very high heat at a short period of time. Mm-hmm. These are toasted, which is a lower heat at a longer period of time. Just kind of gives it a little bit of almost like a marshmallowy toastiness to it. Gotcha. So I love that on those Michter's toasted finish stuff. They're hard to find. It's very difficult to find those bottles. I usually have to get them out at like a bar. And then for an easy to find one, I like 1910 by Old Forester. It's part of their yearly series. It's very easy to find. Should not be super difficult. It's kind of got some of those toasted characteristics to it, toasted finished qualities to it. So Old Forester's 1910 is a good replacement if you can't find the hard to find Michter's.
That's some good information for the listeners there. I have to be honest with you though, TJ, and you may not be my friend anymore, or you may not trust me as much as you did before, but I've never drank in my life because I played college football, played high school, and I know people are like, oh, college athlete. I couldn't do it. I tried it in high school like once, and it just made me feel horrible, so I just never tried it again. And but I still felt it important to ask that question. But this is how much bourbon and whiskey is a part of our lives here in Kentucky. I have a bourbon barrel hanging up on my wall that says welcome to our house, and it's got a Louisville Cardinal emblazoned in the middle. I have built myself a a bar. I know that's weird because I don't drink, but it's got my mini fridge down here in the studios. It's got a microwave, but it's made out of bourbon barrels as well. So even those of us that don't partake, like, it's still a huge part of our lives. And I'm pretty sure that one of these barrels still has a bunch of bourbon in it. So the next time you're here in the Ville, I'm gonna let you drill it and get it out, and we'll have us a good time, and we'll record another show. Toasted, you could be toasted, and I'll be Jeremy, and we'll be straight. That'll be a good time.
That's amazing. No, I'm with it. I got some buddies, man, that I don't judge anybody that drank or whatever. I wish I didn't. I wish I didn't like this. Still, I was on craft beer really big, and I was like, I gotta get a craft beer, and then I found bourbon. And, it was all kind of downhill from there. So, anyway.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people. You've never drank. I just never. It just like think. And again, I'm like you. I don't judge people that do what y'all do is your business. It is what it is. I got friends that do and don't, but at the end of the day, it's just like because I was playing football. I play in high school football. I tried a beer, didn't like it. Just my mom and dad preached, stay away from that stuff, and I was one of them stupid kids that listened to their parents. So I got through high school unscathed, got through college here at Louisville unscathed, and then I got out of college. My mom and dad, my grandma and grandpa started having health issues, so I was always taking care of them, and I just never turned to it. So, but like I said, I felt it was important to ask that question because I know that you have your Bourbon Budget podcast, and I wanted to pay homage to that a little bit. So, question number 7. Okay, we've talked about a bunch of other stuff, so let's get to the game. Our season has been an odd season so far. All summer, we heard about how good this team was going to be. We lost to Mississippi in the opening game to a team who looks to have the Heisman favorite now in Matt Corral. That game reeked of they were just better than us, and we were kind of overwhelmed, just had jitters. I mean, I played football games before. I try to explain this to the people of my podcast because other than my brother who normally does this with me, none of the other guys have ever played football. They've just watched it and thought they knew everything about it and armchair quarterbacked. But I try to explain to them, like, you do have big games that you get nervous for, and sometimes you don't play to your potential. Sometimes you're like, we're going to go out here. We've got multiple teams here in the area where when you see them on your schedule, you know you're going to get a 60-point victory against them, and they're not going to score anything on you. And then you get out there, and it's like a 30-25 game because you've overlooked them and you played down to the level of your competition. Even my very last high school game, I can remember we were playing, and they were a decent team, but we're like, we know we're going to beat these guys. And we were down 28-7 at the half, and at halftime, we're just like, you know what? We got to start playing here in the second half. And they started doing that stupid thing where they just hold the ball and punt. So they literally ran an entire quarter off of clock, and we just didn't have the time to pull that one. But I try to get back on the track. I told you I go off the tracks a little bit sometimes. That's why I didn't mind earlier when you said that that sometimes you have guests that are long-winded. I'm like, yeah, that's probably going to be me too someday. So, but I digress. Sometimes there's factors out there like playing down to the level of your competition, and I think that's what happened in the second game against Eastern Kentucky, because after that game they were saying, oh, we didn't beat them by 60. We suck. We still defeated the team by 4 touchdowns, which makes me sound really old. Back when I was a little kid, 4-touchdown victory was a great victory. But this was a game, like I said, I feel like we played down to the level of our competition. We didn't take them serious enough. And that's part of preparation. We weren't prepared that game. 90% of social media wanted Coach Satterfield fired because we only won by 27 points. Couldn't understand why the team sucked, and they were ready to just be done. Very finicky fan base at times, especially after everything else off the court and off the field we have had to deal with the last 4 to 5 years. But we'll get into that another show. But that led us to Game 3, where I believe we saw the real Louisville football team. They looked prepared and hit on all cylinders, almost lost the game, but we pulled it out against a very talented, very, very talented UCF team that I think, had their quarterback not got hurt, they would be a top 25 team by the end of the year. They almost were when we beat them, but let's wrap this up. I know I went on a little bit there. How important is it for fans to trust the process and not go into this meltdown mode every week? I'm sure you saw it down there as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think fans think that progress is linear, and so I think that when you're running a race, right, we view progress like running a race, and you don't ever go backwards when you're running a race, and that's just not what progress looks like, really anywhere else in life, right? Like financial markets go up and down, companies. Quarterly earnings from a financial perspective. I work for a large financial firm, goes up and down, like it's not always just a steady path to growth.
Right.
And football teams are the same way. Coach Bowden and the Noles won in 93 and then lost games in 94. Well, why did they lose games in 94? Because growth is not linear, right? Like you don't just continue to get better every single week after week after week. And sometimes, I know it's cliche, and I know that sports and cliches are so tied together, but sometimes it is a step forward and 2 steps back the next week. If growth was linear, Florida State would not have lost to Jacksonville State. They would not have lost to Wake Forest based on how they played against Notre Dame. And so it's the same up there. But at the end of the day, you're trying to talk reason and logic to fan, which is short for fanatic, right? And so somebody that's fanatical about something isn't going to be super logical about it. But yeah, growth itself is a process, and it's not an overnight thing. Jimbo Fisher took over for Bobby Bowden in 2010, and it took 4 years to win a national title. And so that's just stuff is not going to happen overnight. There's going to be bumps, there's going to be bruises, and you got to kind of, it's hard to, but you got to kind of enjoy that process. And the hard times make you I'll tell you what, Florida State fans don't realize how spoiled they were over the last several years. But they won't take for granted any good times that are coming. They won't ever take it for granted again after these last several years.
And I feel the same way with Louisville fans. We've had a couple. I don't think we will take those for granted as well until we have another 4-year period where things aren't going right, and then they'll go back. It'll be, like you said, it's not linear. It's going to go up and down and up and down, and it is what it is. Question number 8: what worries you the most about this Louisville offense?
Everything. No, I'll tell you. I think I think with Louisville this weekend, it's can we cover? I like our D line. Any kind of a mobile quarterback has given us issues for years and years and years. So that's, that kind of goes without saying. But I like our D line to do fairly well against the run. I don't know how good it'll do against the quarterback run. That's a little bit tougher for sure. But that's tough for a lot of teams. And, I like us against the run when Mitchell's running it maybe, but I don't like it as much when Malik's running the ball. So that worries me a little bit. But, it's can we get enough pressure up front and stay? I think we can get pressure because the D line's been very good. I saw that Jermaine Johnson transfer out of Georgia has 28 tackles. He leads the country in tackles, and that's also more than any FSU defensive end had last year. And so, I think we will do well there, but I worry about staying disciplined and you guys being able to hit some big plays on our secondary.
I will tell you this, and I know this isn't like a secret because it happened last week. Last week, the key to us overcoming our instability, we were very inconsistent. I meant inconsistency, not instability. Inconsistency was we ran 95% of the plays the opposite way of Central Florida. They're the big cat. I forgot what his actual name is, but he's number 1 for them. We ran 95% of our plays to the opposite side of him. I imagine we'll do. Which, by the way, it seems like we were in the final 2 for him with you all, and it seems like we are in the final 2 a whole, and that's cool for us too. We'd like to get some of the guys over you all, but still, there's that tie there when you think about it. Yeah, the Jermaine Johnson kid. We were an early leader for him, and then y'all offered him and ultimately got him. Very good player. I do stuff with the recruiting team here at Cardinal Sports Zone, and was watching. One of the coaches told me, he's like, watch this kid's film. I'm the lead recruiter. Hopefully we can get him. And then we didn't end up getting him, but very big fan of his. I think that I think the Louisville offense is going to have some issues unless we build off of the momentum we had last week. So I'm going to ask you conversely, what worries you about the Louisville defense after seeing what they've done so far this season?
So Louisville's defense worries me in the fact that I think that your back seven is probably better than our wideouts that are going out, right? Or your back four or whatever. I think your coverage guys are going to be better than what we have at wide receiver. And so, that's going to make things tough. I will say this. I think Wake is probably a better, and don't take this the wrong way. I think Wake is probably a better overall team. They return more guys. I like Hardman a lot. And they're probably a better overall team than Louisville. We're also getting you guys at home. And so I think we may have slightly more success against your secondary, but not to the level of I feel like this is a strength for Florida State.
Right.
If you're asking me Florida State's secondary versus Florida State's wideouts versus Louisville's secondary, I'm taking Louisville there, but I'm taking Wake over both of them, if that makes sense. So
yeah, absolutely. Well, we'll find out next week because that's who we play next week. So
yeah, but that definitely, maybe we can get you guys looking ahead to Louisville or to Wake. I'm sorry, but no, that's something that definitely worries me. Is just, can we get any kind of separation? Can our guys win one-on-one battles, which they couldn't last week? If so, I think we'll be, if they do, I think we'll be in good shape. I think this will be a game and it'll go down in the fourth quarter. If we can't, you guys will probably win by 10 or 14. So yeah, our wide receivers matched up against your secondary worries me a ton.
Question number 10? We're almost there. Question number 10. What are the keys to and I think you've alluded to this, so you don't have to go into detail because I think I've heard bits and pieces of this throughout our interview here. But what are the keys that you haven't mentioned so far for a Louisville win on Saturday?
Louisville needs to take care of the ball and not make mistakes. I think that if Louisville doesn't turn the ball over, I don't know that Florida State is good enough to beat Louisville straight up without the big splash plays. Now, obviously, if Louisville comes out and is just absolutely inept on offense and can't move the ball for whatever reason, then you'll be in trouble. But I think if Louisville just takes care of the ball and plays their game and doesn't try to get too tricky with things, doesn't try to get too fit, just goes out and lines up and plays. Tries to run away from Jermaine Johnson a little bit. I think they'll win. I think that Florida State needs some good things to bounce their way to have a chance.
Absolutely. And real quick, before I get to the next question, which is obviously going to be, what are the keys to FSU victory? One thing I have noticed, like I said, I've watched all three of the Florida State games so far, and the one thing I've noticed is it seems like your quarterbacks are very, very careful. They don't hold on to the ball very well. When I saw Jordan, and he did that here at Louisville too. He just kind of holds the ball out there a little bit, and as far as I could see, I didn't feel like they took care of the ball very well. So I'm sure that's going to be one of your points. But let me ask you this before you answer, what are the keys to FSU victory? I know Mackenzie Milton, which people forget at the beginning of the year was a Heisman Trophy candidate. Are we going to see him? I know he's listed as first on the depth chart. We saw that on Monday. But are we going to see any Jordan Travis? I don't follow. I just had to be honest. I'm sure you follow it more, just like I follow Louisville more. I don't know how his injury. I don't know how hurt he is or anything. Do you think we see Jordan out there, or do you think if Mackenzie needs a rest, it's going to be Chuba?
I don't know yet. I don't have a great gut lean on that. I haven't really dove too far into it.
So they've not ruled him out officially.
Yeah, he's not been ruled out. But if he is ruled out, it absolutely will be Chuba going out there. Coach Norvell said that. But they haven't ruled him out yet enough to where I'd say that, I'm confident that we see Chuba. It wouldn't shock me. This is the worst answer I could give, but I'd say, it's probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 50-50 which way it'll go, because they are obviously very quiet with those things.
Gotcha. Now, what are the keys to a Florida State? Question number 11, what are the keys to a Florida State victory? And again, I know you've kind of, maybe next time, this is a learning process for me because this is the first time I've done this segment, done this show. So now I'm starting to see, hey, he's already told me many of the keys to the Louisville and many of the keys to Florida State. But I think for the listeners who, we live in a day and age where people fast forward through stuff, and I'll just say that's what people their attention spans are very, very short. So for anybody that didn't pay attention, what are the keys to a Florida State victory?
Yeah, so I think for Florida State to win the football game, they have to go out and play just like Louisville. They need to play mistake-free. They also need to play more disciplined. I am not going to try and put lipstick on this pig and say that Florida State was close to being in the game with Wake Forest, but when they went down 3 scores in the second half, they got the ball back and drove 64 yards and could not convert on a 4th and 2 from the 11. They forced Wake into a punt right after that. And then they drove 60 yards down to the 1 and fumbled the ball into the end zone.
Yeah.
And so there's 2 possessions inside the 10 that they didn't score on. They also forced Wake into another empty possession right after that and got the ball back and got a first down, but they ended up throwing a turnover. And so, if they gain 12 more yards in a key situation, it's a 1-score game with about 20 minutes left to go. And so, if Florida State can finish a little bit better, they'll be in good shape. If they can play a little more disciplined, there's a 4th and 7 that we got a roughing the punter. There was a 3rd and 7 where the guy got 2 yards and then we got a late hit out of bounds. They scored on both those drives. And so, I'm not going to play the ifs and buts games, but Florida State played probably well enough to lose by a touchdown. But, didn't finish drives and made mistakes on defense to extend drives, and it really cost them. So for Florida State, it's not making those mental mistakes. It's, finishing drives. Driving 60 yards is great, but scoring is better, And so Florida State needs to finish and play a little more sound, not make mistakes, not make turnovers. I think, if one team wins the turnover battle decisively in this game, they'll win. And so, yeah, those are kind of the keys as I see it. So kind of some new answers. Obviously, then you get into some of the micro stuff of wide receivers getting separation and offensive line being able to give the guys time and stuff like that. But from a big macro level, I think it's just, playing a little bit smarter than we have the last couple of weeks.
Well, guys, y'all heard that here. Now, look, question number 12. I'm going to ask. I try to put in a good mix of previewing the team and then getting some fun facts or questions. So I'm going to ask you straight up. Who's your favorite Louisville football player of all time? And the only qualification is you may not say Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, because he's the easiest pick, right? Like, I still love watching him play in the NFL right now. I liked Atwell last year. Tutu Atwell was a ton of fun. He obviously lit us up for 1 billion yards, and so that wasn't fun to watch. But he was a ton of fun. Man, you're putting me on the spot because it definitely would have been. Lamar.
Yeah.
There are definitely. Now I'm trying to think of basketball too as we're talking about it, just to see if I can throw you a wild card or two. Let me think for a minute. Give me a sec. I'm trying to do some quick Googling. This is terrible radio.
Just say Deion Branch.
Deion Branch would definitely be up there.
Deion Branch. That's what I thought you were going to say because he played in that rain game here in Louisville that we ended up. I think we were 3-7, and y'all were ranked 2nd in the nation. And yeah, him and Damian Dorsey had a couple of key plays. And I knew that's what you were going to say. Not really even sure why I asked that question.
It probably is Tutu though. He was a lot of fun to watch. Devontae Parker was fun. I like Teddy as well. All right, I'll say Teddy.
There you go.
I did like Teddy. Who doesn't like Teddy?
I was going to say I'm kind of offended that Teddy was that far down on the Google search of Louisville football players.
They do these countdowns 50-1, so you got to click through a lot of pages to get to. I clicked on a countdown, and so he was number 3. So
That's awesome, man. Yeah,
I had to click through 47 pages. You put me on the spot.
hopefully you clicked on the ones at cardinalsportszone.com. Cheap pop there. Question 13. Tallahassee is also, as I stated earlier, it's about an 8.5-hour drive. It's close proximity to two of Louisvillians' favorite vacation spots, PCB and Destin. We come down there 2 times a year ourselves because we just love being down there. As I said earlier, we'll be down there next week. I'm going to put you on the spot. Which is your favorite town, Panama City Beach or Destin?
Oh, man.
Mm-hmm.
Why can't you just ask me Tallahassee? That would have been a lot easier. I'll probably say Panama City Beach, but now that I've got family. So, I'm going to cheat. I'm going to go politician here for you. When I was younger, Panama City Beach. Now I'm older with like family, Destin. So
see, that's weird that you say. Oh, not weird. That's funny you say that because for me, it's when I think of the two cities, and I've tried to go to Destin a couple times. I can't do it. The vibe there to me is just like that's where 60 and 70-year-olds go to vacation. In Panama City Beach, you got the two sides.
That's me.
You got the Thomas side.
Yeah, that's me, 60, 70-year-old.
Stop, TJ, stop.
That's what I want to do is just chill and do nothing and not see anyone.
Well, see, I didn't take that into consideration, but you got the two halves of Panama City Beach. You got Thomas Drive, where all the ignorant spring breakers go and tear stuff up, and then you got Front Beach Road, where all the resorts, Splash, Tidewater, Calypso. We stay at Aqua, where all the family things and all the family stuff is. We go to Pier Park, which is that huge outdoor mall that they have there. So that's kind of where my allegiance lies. But no, I never even thought, well, maybe people just like to go on vacation and actually relax. So I didn't think about that. We're always on the go when we're down there. One last final question before we head to the home stretch. And it's another one of my little funny questions. It's not going to end up being funny for you, but I would just want to know if you were aware that Florida State is 0-2 this year since September 11th, which is the day that Brady Scott proposed to his fiancée. What could he have been thinking? What could have been going on in his head to pull that off after that fluke loss? Because I truly believe y'all were the better team that day. Sometimes things just it's happened to us here in Louisville in basketball and football. It happens. But wouldn't you have thought you'd have been like pulling the ring out and been like, okay, let's just do this. Let's do this the next home game. Let's try something different.
Now I honestly, this is gonna be a hot take.
Okay.
I didn't have a problem with it. Brady Scott I believe this is his 6th year in the program. So he's been around. He knows how terrible things have been. And Florida State, this was the year that they blew it, but they were losing last year to this same Jacksonville State team.
I remember that.
Almost lost to ULM the year before. They were up by 3 with like 5 minutes to go against Samford the year before. And after trailing by double digits most of the game, and it took like a pick 6 while Samford was on our side of the field driving for the lead to beat Samford by 10.
Yeah, I remember that.
So like Florida State has flirted with losing to terrible opponents year after year after year. And so that's why obviously the loss is still kind of like, holy crap, I cannot believe you guys just lost. But at the same time, it's still like, to me, it's kind of like, oh yeah, you flirted with disaster several years. It finally just bit you in the butt. So all that in consideration, like Brady Scott's not dumb. Like he knew that there wasn't like a great chance of this, but he knew that there was a chance that this was going to happen. And so once you fly both families in,
yeah,
you're playing at Florida State. Like it's not like he's going to go on and play at the next level. I don't know. Whatever. He's way more important, him and his wife's future than the football game. So I actually don't have a problem with it. Obviously I would have rather it been after a win, but
right.
I just more so would have rather Florida State to have won the game. So
that's how we
issue.
Yeah, that's how we feel anytime we lose to Wake Forest in football. We're like, how the heck did that happen? So I absolutely feel that. And I say that in jest because if you love somebody, you're going to propose. It don't matter what happens on the field that day, they're going to go ahead and do it. And I saw all the social media kind of make fun of it. And then very, very professionally, he issued an invite to everybody to come to the wedding. And I thought that was awesome. Seems like a quality guy. So nothing but good things to say about him. Last question, last but not least. What is your final score prediction? And before you give your prediction, I'm going to go out on a limb because I think that you've helped me make up my mind here. I'm going to go 31-28, last second field goal, kind of like, and oddly enough, I made this prediction on Sunday on our regular show. Same score. I'm not going to waver just because it's been a few days. Same conclusion, last second field goal. And then I did another show last night, and the guy tried to tell me that we had never beat you all in Tallahassee. And I'm like, bro, we just beat them a couple years ago. And I went to look up the box score, and sure enough, it was 31-28 with the last second field goal by Blanton Creaky. His first ever game-winning field goal to give us the win. So I'm going to go with that only because that's kind of like screaming out to me, hey, you predicted that scoring situation. It's actually already happened even though you forgot about it. So that's why I'm going to lock in 31-28. What about you?
I did score predictions before the season started, and I had this I just looked back at what I had, but I had 31-28 FSU. So same kind of line of thinking. Close game, goes down to the wire. I thought Florida State would be better than they are right now when I made that prediction, clearly. I like this to be something like 34-21. I think Louisville wins this fairly comfortably. I'd love to be wrong, but I just don't know that Florida State can do enough to score up into the 30s, and I think Louisville will capitalize on a couple of mistakes like they did on Friday night against UCF, obviously the big one, last couple plays of the game. But, yeah, I think Louisville wins this, like I said, 34-21 would be what I would pick.
And when, again, I appreciate all your time tonight. I had no idea we were going to talk this long. I thought it was going to be a quick in-and-out session. It wasn't. But, again, during the show on Sunday, I was like, we're going to come out slow. Florida State's going to be up like 14-0. We're going to come back, tie it up, and then we're going to win that in overtime. One of the really cool things, which I want everybody out there, not just the Louisville fans, but the Florida State fans as well, I did something cool earlier in the week. I actually emailed the ESPN affiliate in Orlando. They sent me the audio from their guys calling the game, and I put it to the TV coverage. So it looks like literally you're watching the video, and if you didn't know any better, you'd think that their guys were calling the game. It's really cool,
yeah.
Especially as a Louisville fan, it's really cool because you hear them go. And I did it for Louisville too. I put our audio to the video, but I only did the last play, the pick six for ours. When I did theirs, I could only imagine. I was like, well, they probably were hyped when Malik threw that interception. So the audio on that side goes from Malik's interception all the way to the end, and just the guy just so it's so. I hope I'm not ever in that situation because he was just like, oh no! Like when the interception happened, you could hear the dejection. It was audio tears. I put them in a cup and drank them that night. I feel bad now, but go check that out. It's on our YouTube channel, Cardinal Sports Zone.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was pretty cool. I thought it was really. I hadn't seen a whole lot of people do that, so I was like, hey, can you send me the audio? They're like, absolutely. Y'all are always good to us. We'll do this in return, and we set that up, and it was pretty cool. TJ, thank you so much for joining us tonight. We really do appreciate you coming on. We look forward to talking to you again in the future. Where can people find you out on social media? Plug all of them. Let everybody things that I didn't mention, things I did mention. Go ahead and let them know where they can find you.
Yeah, so my Twitter is TJ_Pittinger. Instagram's the same. Facebook's, I don't know, something like that, TJ Pittinger. The shows are Bourbon on a Budget. They're all in my Twitter handle, so I won't roll through all of them. But Bourbon on a Budget, Peak to Pit, and Roll Up Network. The Florida State one, again, being Double Fries Pod on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, everywhere you can find it. Double Fries No Slaw is the Florida State one. You can check out our website, doublefriesnoslaw.com, where we cover all things FSU. We'll have some preview pieces dropping in the next couple of days, just talking about the game specifically. But no, man, I appreciate the conversation. Had a good time.
I did too, man. Sometimes you never know going into these things when you're going to connect or click with somebody. I felt like I was talking to my buddy for the whole hour, so I really do appreciate it. And I can tell you this much: whenever we're not playing, I do cheer for you all. Whenever I come down to the Panhandle, I always order double fries and no slaw. Had no idea that was a podcast. That's just how I roll. Again, thank you so much for coming on today. You can find us here at Cardinal Sports Zone on social media at Card Sport Zone, the site. Individually, you can find me at Jeremy_CSZ. Our YouTube is just search for Cardinal Sports Zone. Same thing for Facebook, 3 separate words. You can find this podcast on all the podcast avenues, over 120 in all. If you haven't listened to all the prior episodes of the Cardinal Sports Zone podcast, just go to cardinalsportszone.com, hit the tab, then the drop-down menu, select CSZ Podcast. Check out all of our exclusives there, like this one here, which we will load, and it will be available tonight at cardinalsportszone.com, the place it all began. We want to thank you to all of our fine sponsors one more time: Fitness Market, Four Pegs, Derby City Lawn and Landscaping, Shack in the Back, All American Pool and Supply. Thank you all for all your support. We appreciate and love you all. Also, the CSC prize money jackpot, if you want to call it a jackpot, now stands at $135. Florida State fans, y'all get in on it too. You can get you a gas tank, a gallon of milk, and then get you one of them boxes from Guthrie's. Whatever you want to do with it, we're cool. Until next time, Court Dennison is the man. Recruit Selah Brown. And this has been the Cardinal Sports Zone podcast.
Pay attention.